All right, we're continuing now with this speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave in 1992. And he spoke to the shluchim, his emissaries from throughout the world. There were maybe 1,000 people there, maybe more. Could be. Nowadays, there's 5,000, 10,000. They have to rent out big, airport hangars and things like that. And the Rebbe is talking about, and like we said before, this is the last time the Rebbe spoke in front of these shluchim, and we have to say that the Rebbe must have known that it was the last time. So he was given this, big pep talk before the game. And he's saying, okay, now we're beginning, and we're putting this thing at the high gear. The purpose of Chabad, the purpose of the Chabad houses, and that's to bring Moshiach. Only to bring Moshiach, you have to talk about Moshiach and think about Moshiach and do everything you can to make it happen. The future redemption, the whole world will know about God. So, but don't worry about it. We're empowered by Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and by lessons that we can learn from the world and from the Torah, especially from the Torah. Okay, Abraham's whole goal in life was to bring the Moshiach. Moshiach is going to be a person just like Moses was, that's going to free all of the Jews from their misconceptions and from their mistaken identities, that they don't know what a Jew is, they don't care what a Jew is. And the whole world will feel, just like we just learned in Torah Or, that they're creations of God and that God loves every one of his creations, handmade constantly by the Creator. So that's our job. That's the job of Chabad that we took on ourselves, to educate the world, to be examples to the world, to break through the ice about the whole topic of Mashiach. And of course, to make it, more user-friendly and to less sort of, theoretical, as the example of the Mashiach is the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, and consequently also our Lubavitcher Rebbe, right? That's the example, what we're talking about, a human being, a person that has all the qualifications. Now, the Maimonides has all the qualifications. You look right in the end of Maimonides in the Laws of Kings, and there's qualifications, criteria for Mashiach, and the Rebbe has all of them. So here we go. That's it. We have to accept the teachings of this person and do what he says. What, by the way, are the criteria? And he has to be a person that knows all of the Torah, written Torah, oral Torah, secrets of the Torah. He has to do all the commandments as much as possible. But that's not enough. He has to also come from the tribe of King David. And that's also certainly not enough. He has to try to bring all the Jews to the same level as he's at. Doing all the commandments, knowing the whole Torah, strengthening, not to be in the tribe of King David, but and surprisingly enough, dying does not disqualify a person from this. If he's killed, that was like Bar Kochava was, but dying does not disqualify him. It even says in the Talmud that the Mashiach can come from the dead. If he comes from the dead, it'll be like Daniel. And then there's also, the known thing that tzaddikim, they really don't die at all. They're never really truly dead anyway. Okay, and the Rebbe is even something special on all of them. In any case, however you look at it, this whole business is much closer than what we think. And just as if you looked at Moses, you would never dream that this man, one human being, is going to take the Jews out of Egypt. The Jews had absolutely no power whatsoever, and the Egyptians ruled over the whole entire world, and the Jews had been slaves in Egypt for like 210 years. So they knew nothing except for being slaves. That was Jew was synonymous with a slave. Huh? Bring the Jew, right? Oh, something spilled. Bring the Jew. He'll clean it up. That's the way it was in Egypt. Nobody believed that they could be anything except for slaves. And no one certainly believed that one person would change everyone's identity and his consciousness and the political situation, that the Jews would get out. They wouldn't be slaves anymore. They would be rulers. They would be slaves to God instead of slaves to Paro, which is a pretty big difference. So who would dream of a thing like that? But Moses did it. It says Moshiach is going to do the same thing, but even more so. How is that going to be? I don't know. But nevertheless, it's going to happen. It's going to be an amazing. This is what we're waiting for. This is what every Jew must wait for. Maimonides says, if you're not waiting for it, then you're denying the whole entire Torah. So here it is. The Rebbe is saying that that's the whole thing of the Shluchim, that the Shluchim, they are emissaries of God. Sounds a little sort of, it's like poetic or whatever, fantastic. But nevertheless, that's it. A mission from the Lord. And the fact is we are, because the world is suffering. The world is terrible. The world is awful, right? And all these false ideas, Christianity and Islam and all these things that, they have their saving graces and their benefits. They put a certain order into the world. They borrow certain ideas from the Torah. But all these things have to be, corrected. It has to be corrected. Like Abraham, he broke all the idols. It has to be corrected. Okay, so the Rebbe is saying, who's going to do it? You, Shluchim, are going to do it. You're going to see in the end that the Rebbe is going to say that you're not the only Shluchim. Anyone who wants to can be a Shliach. I want to see what the Rebbe is going to say. Right? We'll see. Let's go to it. Yesh Lomer, we can say, okay. So we had a question. What exactly was how do you say the definition of Eliezer? Abraham sends Eliezer out he makes him a shliach. He makes him an emissary. He's an emissary. So the Rebbe said, what's an emissary for? To find a bride for Yitzchak, to find a bride for Abraham's son. And Eliezer goes, and that's what this Torah portion deals with. Like the majority of it is how he went and how he looked, and he took the camels, and then comes out Rivka, and then she gives the camels, and he makes a sign, and she did what he said according to the sign, and then she tells her father, and she tells her mother, tells her grandfather, does this, and the whole tremendous story. She repeats the story, and Eliezer repeats the story over and over again. But that's the whole thing of Eliezer and his shlichus and his mission that he was sent out. So the Rebbe said, we are the same thing. We are the servants of Abraham. We are the servants of the Moshiach to bring the Moshiach. So here we see, so the Rebbe asked the question. We see a very interesting thing, that Abraham wrote a deed and he signed away all of his possessions to Yitzchak. Why did he have to do that? Why did he have to sign away everything? Remember, we learned the Sikha yesterday about that. And there had to be what we call Kfitzat HaDerech, that he made a journey of 17 days. Eliezer made it in one day. But why did he have to give everything that he had in his lifetime? He was going to live another 30 years, whatever, Abraham. Abraham technically became legally a total pauper. He gave everything he had to Yitzchak, his son. Why? Why did he have to give everything? So that Rivka would get married to him. Said he didn't have to give everything. He could have given a couple $1 million. Abraham was tremendously rich, it says. He had to give everything. So he said the explanation is like this. Nesui Rivka, the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka, which is the first marriage in the Torah, it's not just an individual marriage between two people, but this is a general thing. This is the first marriage between the Jewish people. We got up to here. Here we go. Right. This is a marriage for all of the Jews in the future, and also between the Jewish people and God. The Jewish people are like the bride, and God, in this case, is the groom. So therefore we can say, and therefore Abraham gave everything that he had to Yitzchak. This is not just an individual wedding. One second, am I recording? Yes. This is not just an individual wedding between Yitzchak, between one Jewish man and one Jewish woman. Ellen Nesuin shall call Yisrael. This is the marriage of all of the Jewish people. Listen, all of society depends on a marriage between a man and a woman. When a Jewish person makes a wedding and he makes children, so those children have the ability to do Torah and the commandments, to put blessing, bring blessing into the world. That's the whole idea of the Jewish people, Memela. So therefore, this is relevant to everything of Abraham himself. The whole purpose of Abraham was to make the Jewish people, so the Jewish people would bring blessing to the whole world, and eventually there would come Moshiach, so that the whole world would actually manifest this blessing. So therefore, the whole essence of Abraham was only that this marriage would succeed, a marriage between a Jewish man and a Jewish woman. This is the first and the beginning and the prototype of all marriages, Jewish marriages in the future. This was the whole essence of Abraham. So therefore, Biyosa Rosh, because Abraham was the head of all of the Jews, he was the first Jew. Therefore, he put in this all of his being, everything that he had. Of Prati, if Abraham was just an individual person, and he was a father of another individual person, a great person, a wonderful person, as loya matin, then it really wasn't proper that he should give everything he had to his son, only a little bit, or the majority of what he had. A part he could leave for himself. But because this marriage was the whole goal of Abraham, this marriage was, this was the most general and important thing that could possibly be in the whole universe. Shemakif et kol klal Yisrael, this encompasses all of the Jewish people, and the whole universe was created only for the Jewish people. For the Jewish people to do what God wants and perfect the world. If so, this is the whole essence of what Abraham, he didn't live for himself. He lived only to benefit the whole universe and to do what God wants. Karosh called the Abraham was the head of all the Jewish people. He was the first Jew in Makom, so therefore it was not possible that he should leave over anything, even the smallest thing, of Abraham, that he would leave separate from this goal. Therefore, he gave him everything. He gave himself over totally. Even more, this marriage comes in the power of Abraham. It says Abraham, he gave birth to Yitzchak. What do you mean he gave birth? It doesn't say he gave, it says holid. He gave the power of birth to Yitzchak. Umalet Yitzchak, and he circumcised Yitzchak. And afterwards, there became the shidduch, actually, this potential by means of him sending Eliezer to Abram. And therefore, Hayat Sarich Lachnis Bazeh et Kol Shelo. Abraham, the whole thing came from Abraham. Yitzchak came from Abraham. He circumcised Yitzchak. Abraham circumcised Yitzchak. Therefore, the whole holiness of Yitzchak came from Abraham. And Abraham's whole job was only one thing, to bring Moshiach, to make blessing in the whole entire world. According to this, now we can understand that Eliezer was not just a matchmaker, an existence in himself. He just was doing his job. But he was what we call an emissary, even more than an emissary. He was like the long hand of Abraham. Kamoto he is like Hamashaleach Avram. He, so to speak, took the identity of Abraham. Kashem, just like Shenesinas Kol Asher Lo, just like giving everything that he had to be total, Belishum Prat, with any detail outside of that. Similarly, also we can understand to Eliezer that all of the existence of Eliezer, Gam Kafishu Olech, even when he goes to make this wedding, so you might think he's just a matchmaker. But the fact is he wasn't just a matchmaker, because the match wasn't just a regular match. It was determining the whole future of the whole entire creation. and doing what the Creator created it for. So it all revolved around this marriage. So Eliezer, being a faithful servant to Abraham, he became a servant. He became like Abraham himself. So therefore, Eliezer was not a separate entity in himself at all. His whole being was just that of Abraham. So the Rebbe, of course, you see what the point the Rebbe is trying to get around to. He's talking to these shluchim, these emissaries of Chabad, and he's saying, you get the point? You are me. You are not separate from me. My whole essence, says the Rebbe, is only to manifest Moshiach. Moshiach should be revealed. You are me. Just like Eliezer was Abraham, so the same thing, you are shluchim. So let's explain this a little bit deeper. The Likkutei Torah, in the book Likkutei Torah, remember we learned that in the second half of the year. In the end, the Alter Rebbe explains that the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka, this is the most general thing in the Torah, and in fact, in the whole entire creation. A meshakef, this contains in it, it encompasses et kol klal avodas adam, everything that a human being does in the world correctly is encompassed, is under the umbrella of this marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka. And there he explains it Kabbalistically. This is the unification of two aspects of God, Ma 45 and Ban 52. Ma, usually, that's the numerical value of Adam, man. Ban is the numerical value of Behema, animal. Remember, we learned that speech about the Rebbe, from the Rebbe, that Sora, God told Abraham, everything Sora says, you should listen to what she says. And according to Kabbalah, Sora is the body, and Abraham is the soul. So God is telling the soul, everything the body says, you should listen. So what does that mean? That we should be, like hedonists or whatever? We should listen to whatever our body says? It says, no, not the external of your body, but the inside. The inside purpose, why your body was created. The body was created in order to serve God. The body feels that deeply inside. We have to reveal it. That's the job of the soul. But once the soul reveals it, that's Yitzchak, that's Ma, that's the soul coming down from above to below. Then it reveals this truth, the real reason why the body is here. That's Ban. That's from below to above. That's the power. That's why an animal's behema, an animal, is more powerful than a man, right? They used to hitch up animals to a wagon, and they could do things that a man could never do. Same thing with this world. It says, therefore, the unity of Yitzchak, the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka, was really unifying, because everything depends on man, right? Everything depends on man. So this is really unifying these two aspects of God, the aspect of God which comes blessing from above to below, and the aspect of God which is work from below to above. Hainu, Yichud, Shel, and Neshama, namely the unification of the soul, which is Ma, and the body, which is Ban, of every single Jew. That's what happened with this wedding. Ad Shlemos, a Yichud, until the completion of this unity and the marriage between the Jewish people as the soul with God. Right, Mount Sinai, what happened? God came down. That's the aspect of Ma. And he was the groom. He was, so to speak, the soul. And the Jewish people, they were the bride. They were receiving. They were, so to speak, like the body, the vessel. That's what this marriage was. Yisrael Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Jewish people and God really are totally one. Kafisha said, this is going to be revealed. When will this be revealed? As it is now, right? Jews, we don't see the Jews are especially, holy people or blessed people or whatever. It used to be that people hated Jews, like the Nazis. They hated the Jews because the Jews are God's representatives and they hate God. But nowadays, people hate Jews because they're not acting like God's representatives, right? They're not acting like God's representatives. A lot of them are not so honest. A lot of them are not very egotistical. A lot of them are whatever. Okay. I'm trying to learn some sort of merit on the anti-Semites today. In any case, when God and the Jewish people are united, then the world is going to be, how do you say, normal. It'll be healthy. And that's what's going to be in the future redemption, Geula Mitit Veshlema, in the future total redemption, after this already began with the engagement. That's this week's Torah portion, the engagement of Yitzchak and Rivka with Eliezer. When was the engagement? When God gave the Torah. When God gave the Torah, that was the engagement of the Jewish people to God. The wedding has not been, right? The food obviously is getting cold. It's 3,300 years. The table has been set. All the musicians have, since then, they've died. Their children have died. The band is just, it's just a bunch of old instruments and bones are there on the this. Everybody's waiting for the wedding. When is going to be the total wedding? We have had the engagement, the wedding, the tables are set, and the things and everything is, and the wedding, we've been waiting 3,000 years. Shebazeh, then in this, midbatel, this is the whole thing of man, became Torah of a mitzvahs. This is the whole reason why we're doing the Torah and the commandments in this world, the physical world, namely to unite ma, this aspect of God, which comes blessing from below, above to below, and ban, that's how the world is elevated from below to above to unite them. Hachiru shel matan Torah, that's the whole novelty of the giving of the Torah is expressed in this. Sha'az, then nitpater gazera, nitbatla, then there was negated, it was removed. The natural decree that God made when he created the world that separated between the upper worlds and the lower worlds. Before the Torah was given, if you wanted to be spiritual, you had to leave the world. You have to go sit on a mountain somewhere. You have to remove yourself. Don't get married. Don't have this. Right? And then you can start feeling a little bit your soul. But after the Torah was given, this whole barrier between the upper worlds and the lower worlds was removed. And now a person could be totally holy, spiritual, even holier by being in this world and doing the commandments and thinking about what he's doing than he could if he leaves the world. There's the ruchnius, the gashmius, that's what it says. When the Torah was given, there was a separation before the Torah was given, there was a separation between spiritual and physical. And when the Torah was given, it was removed, the barrier between ruchnius, the gashmius, spiritual and physical. Ma, which is spiritual, and ban. But as then, Nitan HaKoach was given the power, lechaber, to unite, ula'ached, and to join and to unite physical and spiritual. Shaguf Gashmi, that the physical body, Vadavar Gashmi, and the physical things, Yasu Kodesh, will become holy. Until Lechefze Shel Kedusha, they will become actually items of holiness. V'shleimus yichud zeh, and when will this total unity be accomplished of Ma and Ban? When will it be? That will only be when Moshiach comes, Begula mitis v'shlema, and when the true redemption by Moshiach. But even more, it says in the Kevas Soveves Geber, it won't just be a unification of the blessings of God to the world, but it'll be that the world will be higher than the blessings themselves, which we're going to explain in paragraph number 10. Now we're in paragraph number 6. With this, we can explain in Likkutei Torah. That's what it explains in the Likkutei Torah. Likkutei Torah is a book written by the first Rebbe of Chabad, right? It says that this unification of Yitzchak and Rivka was Ma and Ban, these two aspects of God's unity and blessing, whatever. It explains over there, Madua HaTorah, why is the Torah takes so much time and space and devotes it to this unification of Eliezer, the servant of Abraham, Eliezer, and what he did and how he went and the camels and this, what all this, Sheparsha Shel Eliezer Kafula B'Torah, that it's even repeated over. Shekain Zeh Haya Inyan Shel Shlichus Eliezer. That's the whole thing, because that's the whole idea of the mission that Eliezer, Abraham's servant, went on, namely levarer, to refine ulamshich, and to draw down this unity of Yitzchak and Rivka. Ma uban, This is a total unity, which is the inner marriage. So it could have just said that, okay, Abraham sent Eliezer to find a wife, and he found one and he came back. That's all. 3 sentences, you could finish the whole thing, right? Eliezer sent his, and after these things, when Eliezer came back, as they got married. No, it doesn't say that. It says that Abraham sent him, he made him swear, and he said, put your hand under my thigh and swear that you're going to bring me back the proper wife. And he says, okay, I will. And he's going. And Eliezer says, I don't know who to pick. Listen, I know, I'll make up a thing in my mind. I'm going to bring my camels there. The girl that comes out and gives my camels to drink and gives me to drink, that's a sign that she's the one. And all of a sudden, she comes out Rivka and she says, "We camels are thirsty. You want something to drink? Come, ooh, this is it, right?" And he gives her all sorts of presents. And then he goes to her father and mother, and he tells the whole story over. You know what? I came out and I didn't know what to do, and I made up this idea that whoever feeds my camels. And suddenly she came out and she fed the camels, and that was it, right? Go over the story. The whole story is totally unnecessary. Says the Rebbe, totally unnecessary. The fact of the matter is that every detail of the story is fixing up something in the world and bringing about the marriage of the Creator with the creation, the revelation of Hashem in every detail of the world. Ubapashta, simply, Rivka, she was found in a place called Padan Aram, outside of the land of Israel. Eitzel Betuel, by Betuel Arami and Lavan Arami. She was like a thorn, a rose among the thorns. This is the level of Ban. The holiness which is in the world the rose was hidden among the thorns. Eliezer had a mission that was, namely, Laotzi, to take her out and to bring her this holiness which is hidden in the world, the rose, take her out from the thorns, evil Betuel and Lavan, and she should become a wife to Yitzchak. And Yitzchak, it says, was totally pure, Ola Tamima, never left the land of Israel. He was this level of pure godliness, Ma, blessing, in a way that they would be one flesh, Ma Aban, they should be unified. Sheyivnu Bait B'Yisrael, they should build a house in Israel, Ba'olam Hazeh, in this physical world, Hagashmi, physical world, Kasher Atachlit, the whole purpose is the holy Toldos, to give birth to children. And the children will be also holy people and do only good deeds. That from this will eventually come all of the Jewish people to the end of all generations. So according to this, now we can understand that this shlichus, that this mission of Eliezer, which that's the first shlichus, this is the first mission. He was the first emissary that's written in the Torah. This gave him the power to do this service of unifying Ma, God's blessing, Uban, and the good hidden in the physical world, Ba'avodas Hashem, to serve God for all of us. And this began in Mount Sinai, and from then it was drawn down. There was the unity, right? God was the groom, and the Jewish people were the bride. And from there it was drawn down. That we said that was just the engagement party. Misham, there was drawn down to all the times and all places until the completion, which will be completed in the future redemption. So all these people that the Rebbe is speaking to, these are religious Jews, and they know what the Torah is, and they've all been through yeshivas and they've learned the Torah, and they do commandments. And the Rebbe is saying, okay, now what you have to do is encourage all of the Jewish people to do the same, do Torah, do commandments. That's the unification of Ma, of the blessing of God, and Ban, and this physical world. And you have the power to do it through Abraham, that he gave it. And the whole thing was accomplished by a shaliach. It was all done by an emissary. Who was it? Eliezer. V'yesh Lomer, we can see, and that's who you are. V'yesh Lomer, we can say, sheshlichus haklali shel Eliezer, that this sending, this Eliezer being an emissary, and like we said before, he was not just an emissary. He was, so to speak, the long arm of Abraham himself. This is hinted at also what it says, Eved Avraham Anochi, that when he was asked who, mosquito, he asked, who are you? Right? Betuel and Lavan, they said, who are you? He said, my whole identity is, he didn't say what his name was, he didn't say his identification number. He said, I am a servant of Abraham, a servant. We are servants of the Rebbe, servants. The Rebbe wants servants. That's what he wants. Eved Avraham Anochi. It's known Avraham Yichel, that Abraham began the preparation for the giving of the Torah. That was hinted at Eved Avraham Anochi. I am a servant of Abraham. Shebiyoto Eved Avraham, that because he was a servant of Abraham, therefore Eliezer, in that he was a servant of Abraham, he had the power to unify Ma'uban. His whole identity, it wasn't just a very important thing. He was hired to do a job, like we said, like a matchmaker. His whole very identity, his whole being was just one thing. He's a servant of Abraham. What was his job as a servant? To unify Ma'uban, the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka, and mainly to bring the Jewish people to Mount Sinai, where they would feel godliness, and Tavdun, they would be servants. The whole Jewish people would become servants of God on this mountain. V'Gilui Shel Anochi, Matan Torah, the revelation of God at the giving of the Torah. To be servants. Okay, very good. Now I think is the time to mention this, and I'll mention it again, a thing that I heard and it really shook me up, and it's not very important, but because it's the Kenes HaShluchim, as I think it's important. One year in the Kenes HaShluchim, they invited a very, very important, a very wonderful and genuine rabbi to speak. And this rabbi said that the Rebbe does not want servants. The Rebbe does not want, he wants leaders. The Rebbe wants leaders. That's what the Rebbe wants. He doesn't want servants. He doesn't want Hasidim. He wants leaders. And everyone stood up and they all clapped. I think that this is very wrong. I think that this is totally a wrong direction to take. The Rebbe wants servants. That's what the Rebbe wants. If you have to be a leader, you have to be, who knows, the president of the world or whatever, the richest person in the world, and to be the king of the universe, but that's not who we are. We're doing those things. But our identity is we are servants of the Rebbe. Eved Avram Anochi. We are not leaders. The Rebbe does not want leaders. The Rebbe wants us to do whatever he wants. If that requires that we should be leaders, we'll be leaders. But all the time we have to remember, I am not a leader. My identity is not that I am a leader. My identity is I am a servant of the Rebbe. Eved Avraham Anochi. And that's the whole purpose of the Kenes HaShluchim, of the Shluchim convention, with no doubt whatsoever. And it shouldn't be any doubt in anybody's mind. Okay, let's learn the Dvar Malchut. Here we go. Excuse me 1 second. Eved Avraham Anochi. Here we go. The service of prayer, which brings to understanding in the brain, we understand that God exists, we understand all these things, right? But it brings it to the emotionals that we feel it in our heart. And this brings both of them together, the heart and the brain, to actually doing the commandments with the fear of God and having good character traits. It's very nice to be a religious Jew and to know the whole Torah, but don't be a animal. And it's very easy to be an animal, even to be a holy animal. The Rebbe brought an example of the pupils of Rebbe Akiva, that they were tremendously genius people, but each one of them had his own nature. That's why God creates everybody, especially Jews. Everybody's faces are different and their personalities are different. So each one served God with this tremendous devotion and purity, and they thought that everybody else had to do the same. It was very difficult for them to bear that anyone else was different from them. And so as a result, it awakened in them an animal trait of, how do you say, fight or flight. You know, the fight or flight thing? Fight. You can't, everybody else somehow or others posed a menace to me. I have my way of serving God. So even to that degree of animalness, we have to do it with. We have to have good character traits, to accept other people, to be good examples, to learn from everyone, and hope that people learn good things from me. Have a good day with Moshiach. Now, the main idea is to think about what God is by learning Chassidut before davening. When you pray, to bring that thoughts into your heart. And after you finish prayers, to take all of that comprehension and emotion and put it into the learning Torah and doing commandments and being a mensch the whole day. Have a good day with Moshiach. Now, God willing, 3:00, we will continue our quest for Moshiach.